Hi, I'm Stephanie, and this is Clara.
And we're from Therapeutic Oasis in South Florida. And today we're going to be talking about our third topic in our COPE-19 class. Our third topic focuses on physical well-being. So we're going to start off the class talking about love.
Yeah, self-love.
Self-love, yeah. So we take care of the things that we love. And so when we're talking to people about self-care and about their physical well-being, we find that sometimes people have a hard time investing in themselves and changing their routines. And at first it feels like effortful doing. It takes a lot of energy. And after you get into the swing of things, it can feel effortless. And so although it's important to come up with routines and regimens and to be able to form positive habits, there's also this backdoor way that we can be thinking about increasing our ability to take care of our physical well-being. And that's to really cultivate self-compassion or self-love. So we really want to start there by asking you to reflect on this statement, I love myself, or perhaps I am learning to love myself, and maybe even this statement, may I love myself. So if you were to use one of those statements and just notice it as you say it to yourself, if it feels comfortable or if it feels uncomfortable. And if it feels uncomfortable, that's okay. I want you to just notice that that's where what I want you to hear throughout the lesson today is we'll touch on self-talk throughout the teaching. And so we would want you to switch your self-talk to be able to put your mind in a positive state and a loving and self-compassionate state, so that when you're putting together your well-being plan, it doesn't seem like so much effort because you're not moving against yourself. And so let's jump into the teaching.
Yep.
Yeah, so we have 4 topics that we want to bring to you today. So under physical well-being, the 4 focus points are: number 1, nutrition; number 2, rest; number 3, a well check; and number 4, movement. So well-being, like I mentioned before, can be affected by how you talk to yourself. And it does really. So well-being emerges from your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. And so, at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to ignore your body and feel well, right? And oftentimes we look for these quick ways around, eating quickly, exercising quickly. Let me just get this nap in, And no matter how you try to go around it, nothing can really
ignore it.
Yeah, you can't ignore it. Nothing can really substitute for just really wholeheartedly jumping into this. So we're going to first focus on nutrition. And we did link a worksheet to this. And this worksheet is really just things that you can be aware of. And you might look at the worksheet and just notice 1 or 2 things that you want to bring to your attention and be more mindful of throughout your week. And
the worksheet does come from our nutritionist at Oasis, Christy Caggiani.
Yes, and she's also a certified eating disorder specialist. So she works with a lot of different types of nutritional needs. So sometimes disordered eating, or sometimes eating disorders, which is how I like to refer to it. So with nutrition, whatever you would like to build awareness around, we want you to be focusing on these 4 tips. The first tip is structure. So you are eating on a plate at a table. You're creating the structure of how nutrition is going to happen for you. The second is consistency. So you're going to be mindful of the times that you're eating. The third is balanced eating, and I guess there's a lot to say about balance. About balance, because there's so much you should do this, you should do again with the should, and it really
and lots of the good way or the right way, the healthy way, the not healthy way.
Good foods, hot foods, those kinds of things. So we don't So we don't talk about good foods or bad foods. Food is food. And so when it comes to balance, if there was one thing that I learned from our nutritionist at Oasis is to really have a colorful plate. So at the end of the day, for me, balance is knowing that I have a colorful plate so that I know that I'm getting a lot of different vitamins and nutrients. And I know you like texture on your plate, so having texture on your plate.
Yeah, because with the colors come texture. Because I might add more crunchy vegetables and not cook mine as much, where I know that you like more of her soggy foods.
Yeah, nice, soft, colorful foods. Yeah. And so that's how we can create balance, simply by having a colorful plate. And when I say colorful plate for your children, that doesn't mean Skittles, like every color under the rainbow. It really means a colorful plate where I'm incorporating my proteins and my fruits and my vegetables, nuts, seeds, all of these tools that I have, and plating it in a colorful way. And then the fourth is to be non-judgmental and really just doing the best that you can. And sometimes the best that you can could be picking one meal that you're going to work on these 4 things with. So how am I going to, around lunchtime, create structure, consistency, balance, and non-judgment? And maybe you just start practicing getting really good at lunch.
Right.
Yeah, mine is breakfast. I've been practicing getting really good at breakfast. I think I've arrived.
You have arrived at breakfast.
Yeah, I'm really, I have it down, all my choices and, how I'm going to have breakfast and what I have for breakfast. And
which is great because breakfast is the most important meal. It sets your clock, your hunger cues.
Right, and I notice now my hunger cues, when it's time for breakfast, my body is, I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
My body's just like, hey.
It's time to eat.
It's time. Yeah, it's time. And so again, for nutrition, structure, consistency, balance, and non-judgment. Our second topic is rest. Rest stands for regulate, environment, self-talk, and try. When we're thinking about regulating refers to your body chemistry and being able to having the mindfulness of how this affects your ability to really settle down in your body at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things that can affect your regulation of your chemistry in your body. So yes, food can do this too. And yet the environment, there's a lot of things in the environment that can change our chemistry. One of the really big things that we talk to teens about a lot is screen time. And so screen time can increase the cortisol in your body, which is a stress hormone, and it can really keep you alert at night and sends the brain messages that it's awake and alert and it's ready to problem solve and think. And then the other thing that screen time does is affects your melatonin production. So all of these things can derail your sleep at night.
The light doesn't allow your body to realize, hey, it's time to go to bed, so it's not going to kickstart your natural melatonin.
And then sunlight. So sunlight can help regulate your sleep and wake cycle. So during this quarantine, if you find that you've been inside more than you usually are inside, it's time to go outside and take a walk, or just be in your backyard or in your front yard or on your porch or balcony for a little while, so that you're getting the environmental messages of hey, it's midday or it's morning or oh, it's evening, and this will help to regulate your sleep and wake cycles. And so tell us about napping. So the other thing is napping.
Yeah. So napping, power naps are the way to go. So no more than 30 minutes, so 20 to 30 minutes. After that, you really begin to affect your sleep cycle, which is going to affect your nighttime sleep.
Yeah.
And limiting nap time, nap to once or twice a day.
Yeah. So you can't catch up with sleep. Just when you don't eat a meal where you feel satiated, you're going to be snacking throughout the day because you can't catch up with your hunger.
Right.
So it's the same thing with sleep. If you don't get a restful night's sleep, napping throughout the day really isn't going to help you catch up with sleep. It's just going to affect your sleep the next night. And so the last thing is mood altering substances. So of course, mood altering substances can wake our body up and keep us really, really activated, especially things like caffeine. It doesn't mean that caffeine is bad. It just means that we need to have an imbalance. So all of these things, when we're thinking about regulating our body, we want to take them within a balanced, we want to take a balanced approach. so that our bodies feel balanced, our chemistry is balanced,
Yeah.
and our body can do what it wants to do naturally when it's trying to go through this sleep and wake cycle.
Yeah.
So we go through 2 sleep cycles. One sleep cycle is to our body to be able to physically repair, and the other one is to be able to chemically, repair, so that when we wake up in the morning, we're better equipped to deal with stress. So if you've been pulling those all-nighters, watching movies or what have you, since we're all home and inside, just know that your body's actually not able to recharge its chemistry, and so if you do have a stressful event, it might not be able to deal with it as well as it could if you were getting a restful night's sleep and going through those 2 sleep cycles. So the next thing that we want you to think about with rest is environment. This is one of my favorites because this involves the 5 senses. So for environment, just think about the 5 senses. And I have used a lot of different things. So I have a sleep mask that I've used, earplugs. I also use some like nighty-night oil.
Full disclosure, she has insomnia issues, which is why she has so many tools.
So many tools. I don't use them all the time, but I do.
Because I tend to use the nighty-night all the time, and that pretty much puts me to sleep.
Yeah. So this, so the Rescue Remedy Sleep, I might use this. It helps a little bit. It might knock you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do have a history of insomnia, and actually it's so much better now because I've been addressing these things and regulating my body and being mindful of my environment and how I think about sleep and trying new things. And so the other thing that I want to show you is this. Oh my gosh, it's so heavy. It's like my weighted blanket. This is my new favorite. And I've used weighted blankets with clients before and with sensory issues, and it's been really, really helpful. So I finally got myself a weighted blanket, and I love this thing. And it's really, really big, so it's like a comforter, and it really does quiet my sensory system, and it helps me just sort of land into a restful state. And you can also use other things like lighting. I do use, different color, lights, soft lighting.
Temperature,
right. And so everybody's body is different. Our sensory systems are different. Sometimes we need the dial turned up and sometimes we need the dial turned down. So in thinking about your environment and your 5 senses and what's going to work for you, and if you have little ones at home, also addressing their environment and what's working for them to be able to soothe them. So the goal is this. The goal is to be able to soothe your sensory system so that you can slip into a parasympathetic nervous system, which is that rest and digest state. So next, I want you to think about your self-talk and what you might be saying to yourself. So I know what my self-talk would sound like when was laying in bed at 3 a.m. thinking like, I gotta get up at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
So
you do that sleep math where it's like, well, now I'm only gonna get this much sleep, and then you might just be like, forget it, then I just won't.
And stay up.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I think you would do that.
Yeah. I've come a long way. Yeah. I can't really imagine doing that now.
Yeah.
And so the self-talk of, well, what if I can't wake up in the morning, or I'm just so awake. So when I'm telling myself, well, I'm awake, or I can't sleep, or all of these things, I'm actually really activating my brain and I'm waking it up, and I'm creating stress, I'm creating pressure. My body is now alert and needing to work with this stress state that I've created. And I want to tell my body that it's okay. And I want to be flexible with my time and not put pressure on myself and just do the best that I can, so that I'm sending these messages to my brain and to my body that I can be in a relaxed state and in a rest state. And maybe I don't fall asleep really quickly and I can still rest.
Yeah, so it's working on accepting that what's happening is happening versus trying to resist and go against that.
Yes. Yeah. And so the last point here is really to try. And I have tried and I do feel like that my sleep is finally is finally under not under control. I don't like the word control, but it's regulated, and I'm really able to get a good night's rest. And so what I really did to do that is to be mindful of, you know, my regulation of my chemistry, my environment, my self-talk, and then just trying new things to be able to manage it.
Yeah. So, and it's also like your sleep cues. So you will get tired if you're waking up earlier. You get tired earlier. So it helps those cues.
Right, because there was a time for me where, you know, 2 a.m. felt like it's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
And now it actually feels like it's time to go to bed at like 10:30 or 11.
Yeah.
And so I would like to go to bed on the earlier side, but if I can feel like, oh, it's nighttime at 11 and start to settle and get ready for bed, that's a huge improvement for me. So just trying new things and really being flexible with yourself. Our third topic is well check. And we don't want to freak you guys out and talk too much about medical stuff, as I know we're all really anxious, but well check means your medical health.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that we can focus on right now is identifying and realizing that anxiety can make us feel sick. So there's like being sick, and then there's anxiety sick.
Yeah.
And sometimes anxiety sick actually shows up as like real symptoms. Yes. So it doesn't mean that they're not real. They are there. So one of the important things to do is before you go online and look at any of the CDC or anything of like, do I have COVID or do I have, you know, something else, is actually take a moment and do a mindfulness exercise and try to be as calm as possible before you jump into researching what it is that you might have. The Sacred Treehouse has really good resources. So if you follow them on Facebook or on social media, they'll give you quick tips to practice mindfulness.
Yeah, and I often, you know, might need to do that. I might need to check in and say, okay, am I sick, or am I anxious sick? And of course we know that, I mean, some of our clients, you know, like in school, like when it's exam time, college students and high school students, they tend to get like, they're like, oh, I have this rash or I feel nauseous, and you know, anxiety does bring some, you know, our body talks to us when we're anxious. So being able to really settle in and that emotional scale 0 to 10, 10's the most uncomfortable, 0 is neutral, and to be able to notice where you are on the scale, bringing your number down, and then doing a well check to see how you physically feel in your body. And so if you don't feel physically, you know, well in your body, and you go through and you manage your anxiety and you notice that I really don't feel okay, and I feel like something's up, you know, in your gut, you know, we can have that sense, then we want you to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. So that might be going to the CDC website, and you can click on the questions. It has a questionnaire that you can go through that can be really helpful. And then also reaching out to your doctor through telehealth. If you have medications, it would be really important under well check that you're monitoring that you're taking your medications as prescribed within the windows, and being really consistent with that. And then being mindful that when you're going to be out of medications, and being able to call in those prescriptions and having them at your disposal.
Right.
Okay. The last topic that we want to bring to you is movement. And movement is so important. And we didn't use the word exercise here because it's really not about, I mean, exercise
comes with way too much baggage.
Yeah, it's so much, to unpack exercise and what you should and shouldn't do. And, you know, I'm not an athlete, so what exercise is going to look for an athlete is different from what exercise is going to look for me.
Right.
But really just move. When you just can't, movement can. Just move. And so 2 points that we want to make about movement today. And so the first point is the intention of your movement. So for me, I want to move because I care about my body, and my body feels like moving, and I want to give my body what it wants, versus I want to change my body. So sometimes through movement, our body does go through changes.
Right.
And yet that is maybe the outcome of something that happens, but it's really not my focus. So I really want to, when I'm thinking about movement, I want to enjoy the process and be focused on the process versus the product or the outcome that I'm going to get. And what you might find is that when you just shift the way that you think about movement from being process-oriented, to being process-oriented instead of product-oriented, you actually, I think, just run better.
Right, and you feel more motivated. Yeah, you have a better relationship with movement in general.
Right, and so so we know. So the second point is this: we know that you could do movement on your own, but did you know that if you move with other people, it improves your self-esteem? And so that's really cool. Yeah. And so so I'm thinking about dance, and so we like to do. We've done this. Like dance breaks, and done dance breaks at work before, and there's a lot of different resources that you can use online for that.
Our favorite, though.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out to Fitness Marshall. So that's my favorite. Yeah, and so if you've not checked out Fitness Marshall, please do. It will improve your esteem, and just feel really great doing it. And so he'll put on different videos from popular songs and choreograph dances to them
in a really playful manner,
in a playful way. Yeah, so I'm not trying to be like a dance perfect whatever, but it's fun. Yeah, just trust us, it's fun. So if you're looking to incorporate some movement in a fun way, and maybe not like I'm gonna do movement for a 20-minute, 30-minute, 1 hour exercise, whatever, you want to just do something quick and simple, do a dance break. We recommend checking out Fitness Marshall. There's a lot of other dance break videos that you can do. You can find him on YouTube, and so that's just one that we really love and recommend. So our 2 points for movement is to be mindful of the process of moving instead of the product that you're trying to get out of movement, and then the joy of moving, and moving with people, moving with others, and they don't need to be in the room with you. You can follow along with movement on a video on a social media platform. And so we invite you to do that. So in recap for today, when we're thinking about physical well-being, we want you to be mindful of these 4 areas: nutrition, rest, well check, and movement. So if you can spend 19 minutes today thinking about some things that you want to increase or decrease or add into your life in order to really improve your physical well-being, we would invite you to do that. And next week, we are going to be presenting our last class.
All about the feelings.
All about the feelings, yes. Our emotional regulation. So that'll be our final class next week. So tune in next week for more on emotional regulation. Thank you.
Bye.